Howdy my totally always Tubular gamers, and we're back with, you guessed it, another ranking kind of review video, and today we're going to be talking about the Payday series. Now, for the uninformed, the Payday series is a trilogy of cooperative first-person shooters developed by Overkill Software. I think like the best description I could give of these games is these games are kind of like Left 4 Dead, only with cops and robbers. You know, instead of going through some zombie campaigns, you're doing heists. Whether it's at banks, whether you're cooking meth, or now stealing cryptocurrency, you're doing heists. Instead of zombies, you have the police. It's cooperative in the same vein as Left 4 Dead. You can be stealthy in these games, though requiring even more cooperation, and then there's of course some progression in these games. While Payday may never have hit the heights of, say, Left 4 Dead in its peak, it still does have a pretty substantial player base, especially Payday 2 on PC, where the game got updates for like 10 years. Now, when it comes to my history of Payday, I remember when the original came out, I got it at release on PC, played a good 20-30 hours of it, really enjoyed it, got Payday 2 at release, played well over 100 hours, and here we are now with Payday 3. After a pretty long development cycle, Payday 3 is finally here, and I'd like to give a nice shout out to Deep Silver for hooking me up with the game. I really appreciate it, guys. Very much. But let's get into it today. I thought I'd talk about the Payday trilogy, stack these games up against each other, see which one's my favorite, least favorite, give each one of them a little review, share my thoughts, feelings, memories I might have with this game, you know, just have a good chill time. I know it's not exactly the biggest ranking video or biggest review series I've done, but I do enjoy all three of these games and I'd love to talk about them for everyone. So let me know down below your favorite Payday game or some fun memories you might have with this series. Let's get right into it. Like, share, comment, sub. We got the super thanks going on. Any support is appreciated. Of these three games, what do I think is the weakest? And so here we have the latest Payday game, Payday 3, releasing very recently. Now, I was really hyped for Payday 3. You know, I put a ton of time into Payday 2, and I was really looking for like an evolution of the Payday formula. And unfortunately, I'm here to come and tell everyone that I just don't think this game has it, at least not at this moment. Now, don't get it twisted, Payday 3 is still a good game. However, when you compare Payday 1, 2, and 3, in my opinion, Payday 3 is the weakest, and I'd rather play Payday 1 and 2, but Payday 3 does have plenty of good qualities to it. Now, when it comes to the setup of this game, it takes place after Payday 2, and it sees all the money the Payday gang got getting stolen from them, so, you know, they gotta get their bread back. They gotta make some money. It's just really the original 4 and 2 new characters here, and yeah, Bane unfortunately has also been just massacred, so we got a new person in charge, and yeah, they're just here to make some money. The setup is fine. Bane not being there was a little weird at first, especially, you know, after so much time in Payday 1 and 2, but I got adjusted to the new character. I thought she was fine. But that's the premise. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the always online nonsense that Payday 3 is just honestly plagued by and low-key ruined by. This game had a very, very poor launch. One of the worst launches I've ever seen for a video game. I tried to play this game on launch with my friends, as did many other people, and we just could never get into a game. 2-3 hours we waited before we finally gave up and said we can't ever get into a game. We're just sitting on the menu matchmaking. Like, we're trying to do a private game. There was 4 of us. We don't need to matchmake. There's no randoms coming in. Why can't we just play the game? We tried all weekend. We could not get into a single game all of launch weekend. It was just totally broken. And I went, you know what? Let me just try to play by myself. You know what? I'll play offline, single player. It should be fine. No, you have to matchmake for a single player game. I wanted to play a heist by myself. No, you have to matchmake. And that wasn't even working either. So I just couldn't play the game at all. And here we are a couple weeks later, and we still have trouble getting into games. We still wait 5-10 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, just to get a game going because it just says matchmaking. Shoot, I even just waited like 10 minutes to play a single player game like a week ago. Like, are you kidding me? What is this nonsense? I don't know if this was a Deep Silver call or an Overkill call or always online bullshit, but this, whatever this is, needs to be taken out of the game immediately. This is probably the biggest thing holding Payday 3 back. I wouldn't be surprised if they spend the next 6 to 12 months just trying to repair the game's reputation that, hey, it works. You can get into games. You can actually play the games, because this is just a joke. This is just terrible. But I don't want to spend the whole video complaining about that. Just get rid of it. When you actually do get to play the game isn't all that different from Payday 2. You know, you get into your heists. They're all one-day heists now, I might add. Up to 4 players co-op, and you're usually given the task of collecting or stealing something and getting it back to the truck or, you know, the helicopter. There's a bunch of cops you'll kill along the way. There's different variants of the police. ranging from shitty mall cops to people with tasers to Sam Fisher from Splinter Cell and even the bulldozers that can just wreck your shit. Along the way, you can be stealthy in most of these heists, and all of them do provide something different at the very least. The game is pretty solid when it comes to its shooting. I'd say the shooting in this game might arguably be the best of the 3 Payday games. It feels nice, and all of the weapons behave decently. From what I've played, most of the weapons do actually feel different from each other, which is nice, because Payday 2, a lot of the weapons did feel the same, but there was also like over 100 weapons in that game. Then depending how you cleared the heist, did you do just the bare minimum or did you actually collect some extra money, and your difficulty you'll be rewarded with XP and money. Now when it comes to the heists themselves, I'm kind of mixed on them in this game. Look, I don't think any of the heists are necessarily bad here, but I'll be just 100. I like the heists of Payday 2 way more than this game. Shoot, I kind of like the heists of Payday 1 a little bit more than this game. First off, like I mentioned, there's only 1-day heists. The 2, 3, 4, 5-day heists of Payday 2 are gone. A lot of the risk versus reward elements from Payday 2 I feel like are also gone. And I don't know, man, maybe it's just me, but the current selection of heists, too many of them feel a little bit too straightforward and simplistic for my taste. I would have liked a little bit more variety here. But I will admit there are actually a couple, especially the later ones, that do actually have some variety and are pretty decent. This is one area that I think could very well be improved, as I'm certain they'll add more heists over time. You know, Payday 2, it didn't launch with a ton of heists, it launched with more heists than this game, but many of the series' best heists came later in Payday 2's life, so I'm certain they're going to add more heists here. So that isn't like the biggest issue. It's just, you know, if you're going to be replaying these heists over and over, I don't think they're all that amazing. Something though that I think is a substantial improvement over the second game and the first game is the stealth. The stealth in this game is actually very good, with a bunch more options and a lot more going on here. This is the best stealth that the series has ever seen. It's actually pretty decent here. Really almost all of the heists can be done stealthfully. These are good. I got really no complaints here with the stealth. It is very solid, and people who enjoy the stealth playthroughs, the stealth runs of Payday 2's heists, you're really gonna like this. But on the flip side, something I don't like is the progression and user interface. The progression in this game, it just does not do it for me. Much prefer Payday 2's progression here. I don't really like the challenges. It felt oftentimes like I was doing hella shit, I was doing well on the heists, and I just wasn't getting either the XP for it or the unlocks that I wanted. It just felt like incredibly grindy, even for a Payday game. It's like, how many times you want me to replay this shit? In Payday 2, it feels like it never got to this extreme, and I don't know, didn't really care for the challenges. And then the user interface in this game is like surprisingly bad. Like, they could have just reused Payday 2's interface and it would have been fine, but instead they went with this like minimalist approach, and I feel like the game just doesn't tell me enough information now. And when you join a lobby, a co-op lobby, it doesn't tell you anything about the heist. There were so many times where I went, what are we doing in this heist? What am I supposed to do? Like, it doesn't tell you unless you're the one who starts the heist. You just join in the game and you start the heist. Like, in Payday 1 and 2, it would tell you about the heist, you could see a map, you could buy extra stuff, they'd really do a debrief, and that's just completely gone in Payday 3. All of the pre-heist stuff is gone, and I don't know why they did that. It just feels like such a step backwards, and really that's the best way I could describe Payday 3 is, you know, it's alright, but it really does feel like a step backwards from Payday 2 at launch, not Payday 2 nowadays 10 years later with all these updates. You know, outside of the stealth and maybe the gunplay, I think Payday 2 did everything else better. The co-op experience, the heist, the risk versus reward, the enemies, the progression, the UI. Hell, this game doesn't even look all that much better than Payday 2. And the music, okay, it'd be pretty hard to beat Payday 2's music. Payday 3 is good music too, but it's not Payday 2's level. Payday 3, I have no doubt that they're going to continue updating this game, and it'll be updated for years and years to come. And who knows, maybe in like 5 years I'll come back and be like, oh yeah, Payday 3, way better than Payday 2. But as it stands right now in current year, I just can't really recommend Payday 3. Like, you know, it might be on Game Pass, so if you've got that, you can give it a shot, but otherwise, I do not recommend anybody buy this game at this time. Wait for them to fix or take out the always online bullshit, add more heists, maybe tweak the progression a little bit and the user interface, and you know what? Then I think we'll have a pretty solid game here. At this point, though, it sounds like I'm just saying fix everything in the fucking game and then it'll be good. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying everything's broken or this game's bad. I'm just saying this game could be much, much better, and you know it. And I hope one day it does reach its full potential, but in current state, no, I can't recommend this one. And here we have the original Payday the Heist releasing in 2011. I very much remember getting this game at launch going, you know, I love Left 4 Dead, this looks like a fun little FPS I can play with the boys, and it was only like 20 bucks too. It was a budget title, and who would have thought? The original Payday the Heist, I actually had a ton of fun with this game, and it's crazy that this game is actually still pretty good even nowadays. It definitely does have a little bit of a budget feel to it, especially in the presentation. Look, for 2011 this game looked just okay. It didn't put up much of a fight against games like Rage or Arkham City, but I'd say the presentation was fine for what it was. When it came to the gameplay, you know, it really was much more like Left 4 Dead than Payday 2 and 3 is, where it really is about replaying the same couple heists over and over with some different modifiers, whether you're robbing the bank, whether you're robbing the people's house, stealing drugs or cures to cancer, or whatever the fuck medicine you were stealing in this game. I think that when it comes to the variety of the heists, yeah, there's a decent little variety here. Is there way more in Payday 2? Of course there's way more in Payday 2, but what you have here, it's decent. When it comes to the gunplay in this game, it is very basic, especially compared to, say, Payday 2. It feels fine for what it is. It doesn't feel particularly amazing, but there's decent feedback with the weapons and the enemies react. When it comes to the enemy roster, yeah, it's just kind of standard here. You got your police, taser guy, Sam Fisher, and bulldozer, and that's really it. But I'd say the general combat is still decent in this game. When it comes to the stealth, yeah, it's really not that great. At its best, it's okay, just really finicky, and at its worst, it's just kind of broken. I remember struggling quite a lot with the stealth in this game, especially on the No Mercy map. Like, that shit was just ridiculous. Now, something that was pretty unique for the time was really just how cooperative this game made you be. Like, there's no PvP here, it is strictly PvE, and you know, Left 4 Dead was pretty cooperative as well, but this game felt even more cooperative thanks to the fact that there's drops and stealth, and really you just need to work together. The drops were really cool, like you could bring an ammo bag or a medic bag, and this has obviously been heavily expanded on in later games, but I think it's great how the game would really reward not only your cooperation, but playing through these heists over and over with different drops, new weapons, etc. However, all of this can kind of be to the game's detriment, as Payday 1 by yourself, I just don't think it's all that fun. Like, it's okay, but this game really excels in its cooperative features. Like, if you're not playing with friends, I don't know if I can really recommend this game all that much, especially nowadays. The single player and your AI companions, it's just really not that great in this game. But, you know, all these years later, Payday the Heist, I still think it is a very solid cooperative game. Obviously, it's kind of been obliterated by its sequel, and a lot of people have forgotten that Payday 1 even exists, but that's unfortunate. I think Payday 1 is still a good game, still fine, solid shooter that you can absolutely still have some fun with. Music, also pretty good. Additionally, the game is dirt cheap. Like, you can get it stupid cheap, a 4-pack for like under $10. And so, you know, if you really like the second one or you're bummed out by the third one, maybe try the first one. You might be pleasantly surprised with how much fun this game still is. Just because it's not as bombastic or customizable with a bazillion weapons and characters and heists and music doesn't mean it's not a ton of fun still, because the original game, it still is a good time, and I have no problem recommending with friends. But then we have Payday 2 initially releasing in 2013. You know, like I said, I was there day one. I was actually really, and I truly do mean really hyped for Payday 2. I was watching all the pre-release stuff, played the beta, and was like, dude, this game looks really fucking good. And man, Payday 2, this game is fantastic. Like, I thought Payday 2 was great when it initially released, but now with 10 years of updates, yeah, this game is just amazing with so much content. Like, Payday 1 was good, it had some mild success, but Payday 2 just blew up. People went nuts for this game, they loved it, myself included, putting hundreds of hours into it. Like, I really love Payday 2, I put so much time over the years into this game. They really looked at the original Payday the Heist and said, how do we just improve everything? Like, legit everything. Not only does the game look better, it has so much more to it. And the game is genuinely one of the most replayable video games that I've ever played. When it comes to cooperative experiences in games, Payday 2 is like at the very top of my list. Seriously, it's that good. This might be a hot take, but I think Payday 2 nowadays is better than Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. It is past what it was low-key inspired by. Like, they evolved the formula just so much further in so many areas. This game just has a ton of depth to it, especially if you get the DLC. And nowadays the game is dirt cheap, especially with Payday 3 out, so you can get everything with all the DLC for a very low price. Now, when it comes to the premise of this game, it's about crime. Something really cool about Payday 2 is it feels like a lot of these heists really have their own story to them. They really have their own little narrative. There's nothing too complex here, but I really do like how each one, does have a narrative, its own narrative threads and story. There is an overarching narrative of Payday 2, but it's really not all that important. What matters here is the heist, and Payday 2 absolutely delivers in the heist. There are just tons and tons of heists. Some heists are really quick, smash and grab are over in a minute or two, couple minutes at most. Seriously, they're that quick. And others are quite long, like my favorite, Hoxton Breakout, which takes like a good hour. And there is so much variety with these heists. Whether it's a simple jewelry store you're robbing, a bank, you're stealing a painting from a museum, smashing an armored truck, rescuing an old friend, or cooking meth. Yes, this game does actually have real meth cooking, and it's actually pretty cool. These heists just have a ton of variety to them and a boatload of depth, with a lot of them being longer than one day, where you have multiple days with multiple planning phases and a bunch of different ways that the heist can go. These heists are incredibly replayable. They can be played in almost totally different ways, and I'm not talking, a stealthy approach versus a loud approach. I'm talking like when you're doing the heist, there's a ton of different factors that can happen randomly. A great example of a factor changing randomly to keep you on your toes is when you're cooking the meth. The chemical order that you cook is not going to be the same every single time. You're going to have to actually pay attention, and I really like this. It keeps you engaged. You really have to pay attention, and it makes really no two heists exactly the same. Of course, though, there are different approaches. You can be stealthy versus loud. The stealth in this game is quite a bit better than the first games. It's not great, but it's okay. It's functional for the most part, and it's fine. When it comes to the actual gunplay, I'd say it's tied with Payday 3 for the best gunplay in the series. It's pretty solid here. The guns feel nice. Something that this game stomps Payday 1 and 3 with is its variety with weapons. There are so many weapons in this game. There are just a ton of different guns and random shit you can fight with too. Melee weapons, you can bring a saw with you. Like, I really like the weapon selection here and just the level of customization. Not only can you customize, your loadout, but you can customize your character, you can customize what drop you want, and there's just tons and tons of stuff. Payday 3, it's pretty decent selection customization wise, but it doesn't have shit compared to Payday 2. Payday 2 just goes so hard with the customization. You can have tons of different builds, and it helps add to just how replayable this game is. This game also has a great risk versus reward system where you can be greedy in certain days of heists and maybe stay longer in them, and more cops will show up, but the rewards will be greater. I really appreciate this about the game because it just makes it so you want to replay these heists over and over, and it's just really fun. Something that also keeps heists from being boring is the music. The music is just phenomenal in Payday 2. It is so good. You can choose what music you want for each heist, and it really prevented things from getting stale. Like, I've replayed some of these heists, I am not kidding, like 50 or 60 times, and I'm still not bored of them. Like, that's still a great time. These heists are just so fun with tons of different ways to go about them. And what's great is, if you're playing by yourself, you can still have a good amount of fun with this game. Solo play is actually very viable here. The bots are decent. It's not going to be as fun as with friends, but it's still a good time. I really just can't stress enough how varied all of these heists feel from each other, and I think Payday 3 honestly could take some lessons because the variety is so strong in this game. It allows things to just always stay fresh. Like, I have been coming back to this game for years, legit years, for a reason, because it's still fresh, it's still fun, it still feels new. They've added so much to it. And at this point, I don't know if I'd ever get tired of Payday 2. It's just that good. One of the finest first-person shooters ever made. One of the finest cooperative experiences, and just some of the most fun I've had in any video game. I love Payday 2. That's pretty obvious. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Sometimes the heist can be a little annoying with the drill. The AI is not amazing all the time. And the presentation, even at release, was just kind of middling, but man, this game is just so much fun. I have really zero problem recommending this game to anyone that breathes air. You just really can't go wrong with Payday 2. I just can't imagine somebody nowadays going like, yeah, I don't like Payday 2. Like, there was a time I wasn't huge on it either. When they added those microtransactions, I was like, what the fuck is this? But they actually took them out. They actually completely took the microtransactions out like a little bit later. But nowadays, Payday 2 is just kind of goated. One of the best cooperative games you could ever play. It really is a legendary game that I have just endless memories, with truly endless memories, whether it's playing all night, playing an entire weekend away of just Payday 2, staying up way past my bedtime with high school the next day. Man, Payday 2 was the shit then. Payday 2, it hasn't been topped by really any cooperative game. There's some really good ones out there. Vermintide 2 is probably like the closest one in my opinion, but cooperative experience wise, man, Payday 2 is just kind of untouchable for me. Absolutely go play it. I've been rambling for a little bit too long now, so we're going to end the video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Thank you very much if you made it to this part, and have a wonderful day, and subscribe. See ya.